At this point, I would like to invite Dr. David Ray Griffin up to provide additional perspective for Dr. Griffin will bring additional perspective this morning on the questionable science of NIST. Author of The Mysterious Collapse of the World Trade Center 7, Why the Official Report About 9/11 is Unscientific and False. Dr. Griffin is a professor of philosophy of religion and theology, emeritus at Claremont School of Theology and Claremont Graduate University, the author of 36 books, 9 of which are on the subject of 9/11. His most complete statement about 9/11, The New Pearl Harbor Revisited, was Publisher Weekly's Pick of the Week in 2008. His work on the 9/11 issue has prompted his nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize. Dr. David Ray Griffin.
Good morning, and thank you. I have prepared comments I will just read. A recently discovered paper on conspiracy theories by Obama appointee Cass Sunstein has rightly been receiving a lot of negative attention. But this paper also makes an important contribution, pointing out that an idea cannot be rejected simply because it is a conspiracy theory, because there are true as well as false conspiracy theories. We can decide between a true and a false theory, of course, only by examining the evidence. Sunstein says that the government's 9/11 conspiracy theory, according to which the attacks came about because of a conspiracy between Osama bin Laden and 19 members of Al-Qaeda, is true, while the theory of the 9/11 truth movement is false. Do we need to fix the microphone? People seem to be telling me. Does somebody want to do it, or? Well, yeah, it seems like it went off there at some point. Okay, thank you. Sunstein says that the government's 9/11 conspiracy theory, according to which the 9/11 attacks resulted from a conspiracy between Osama bin Laden and 19 members of his Al-Qaeda organization, is true, while that of the 9/11 truth movement is false. But he provides no evidence for either claim. The 9/11 truth movement, however, has presented an enormous amount of evidence to support its claims. For example, in my 2009 book, The Mysterious Collapse of World Trade Center 7, I have shown that the report on this collapse put out by NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, is unscientific and false. It is unscientific because it can make its major negative claim that the building was not brought down by explosives only by ignoring multiple testimonies about explosions going off in the building, by ignoring a piece of steel from the building that looked like a piece of Swiss cheese, even though fire could not have gotten anywhere close to the temperature needed to melt steel, by ignoring particles of metals in the dust that could have been produced only by extremely high temperatures, and by ignoring the existence of nanothermite, a high explosive. The NIST report is also unscientific because it can make its major positive claim that the building was brought down by fire only by telling rather obvious lies. For example, that a huge fire was burning on the 12th floor at 5 p.m., even though in its 2004 interim report, NIST had a photograph showing this fire to be completely burned out by 4:45. And that the building collapsed because its girders were not connected to the floor slabs with shear studs, even though that same 2004 report indicated that the girders were connected with shear studs. The NIST study is unscientific, finally, because it affirms a miracle in the sense of a violation of basic principles of physics. Only months before NIST put out its final report, its lead investigator, Shyam Sunder, correctly stated that free fall would have been physically impossible in a fire-produced collapse. But after high school physics teacher David Chandler demonstrated in a YouTube presentation that the building came down in absolute free fall for over 2 seconds, NIST affirmed this empirical fact while still maintaining its fire theory of the collapse. It therefore affirmed what it had previously acknowledged to be impossible. The government's theory about the collapse of World Trade Center 7 has therefore been disproved as thoroughly as any theory could be. This is one of the reasons why 1,000 licensed architects and engineers are calling for a new investigation. And let me add that this is a big week for 9/11 Truth. Just this week, 6 major stories have appeared in the Danish press based on interviews with Professor Niels Harrit of the University of Copenhagen's chemistry department, who was the lead author of the paper on nanothermite that Stephen Jones' group had initiated. And so the story is getting a major coverage in a European country, none in the United States thus far. Secondly, a symposium has just appeared in a major American social science journal called the American Behavioral Sciences. It is now online. This symposium is about what they call SCADs, State Crimes Against Democracy. The book begins by saying, the symposium begins by saying, the silence of due diligence regarding the official account of the 9/11 incidents continued being ignored by scholars of policy and public administration. This symposium also takes aim at the use of the term conspiracy theories to silence all criticisms about crimes originating from people in high places. And finally, I'll talk more about it this afternoon at the luncheon, but it talks about the incredible silence of the Academy in response to what happened to Professor Stephen Jones of Brigham University, who was forced out of his position simply because he wrote a scientific paper that disagreed with the government's interpretation of the World Trade Center collapses. Normally, this would cause an enormous row within the Academy. They said, aside from a peep from the AAUP, there was virtual silence. Thank you very much.
Please join us in the following segment when Richard Gage lays out the technical introduction for PhD Stephen E. Jones.